be going over a couple pairs for the second week of May. We have gold, of course. We always are going over gold. We have the pound yen, and we're going to just take a little peek at the pound Aussie. Not looking to do too much with this pair this week, but we'll just kind of look at it, and then we can review what's happened with Bitcoin because it has absolutely drained, and we have been shorting that pretty much since right up here. So we're going to start with the pound yen today. And, we're going to start with gold today. We'll just go down this list like normal. So I want to see actually one more. I'm going to change this to right there up top. Okay. So on the weekly time frame, what I'm looking at here is this huge bull run followed by a massive pullback. I mean, we pulled from almost all-time highs 2070 and we have dropped 2,000 pips. We hit 1850. So that's a little bit over 2,000 pips. And I believe that was a very healthy pullback for what's about to happen, which is we continue higher and possibly I'm still looking to see these all-time highs hit because if you look at what the economy is doing right now, a lot of things are crashing. There's been stocks being shorted, stocks are crashing, right? Bitcoin's crashing, all these things are crashing, and all these long-term investors that, hold tons and tons and tons of money, when this sort of thing happens, they're thinking, okay, where do we put our money, right? Because obviously they don't want to keep it in the banks. That would be a dumb idea. Bitcoin's crashing, right? Stocks are crashing. So, what's safe? And gold is a safe haven investment. It's a safe haven currency, even if you think about it like that. So, in my opinion, you know, based on what's been going on in the world, I believe that a lot of money is going to be starting to move into these alternative investments and pushed back into gold, and that is obviously it's going to increase the value of gold. So that's why I have been so hard on the buy bias because I really believe we're getting into a situation with the world and the economy that people are going to be moving their funds from these other investments and putting them into gold. So with that in the back of our minds, let's dive in the market. So if we take a look at this weekly time frame and we zoom in a little bit, what we can see is that this previous week we spiked out the open right here and we got pretty close to the low of this week, right? So the fact that we spiked that and closed all the way up here tells me that we are going to start seeing that bull pressure kick in. Now, looking at the previous week, we can see it actually already spiked out multiple different areas. So we have this low right here, this low right here, and we have this low right here. This was where I really wanted to um, see that bull swing from. We actually did place some buys right here, and it pushed up a good 300 some pips, and then it just drained down this week, in my opinion, to grab liquidity. So I believe we are going to see this bullish pressure continue upwards, and we should see some good movement up into the mid 1900s this week, hopefully. At least get a good entry and hold for the next few weeks to see where price is at. So my first target is going to be this weekly open right here around 1930. That seems like a really good level where if price is going to continue down and my analysis fundamentally is wrong, it would pull back to this area and then continue dropping. And obviously if my analysis for it breaching these all-time highs is right, then obviously it would hit that level, and from there we would probably get a second entry. Multiple entries are going to be taken along the way as this pushes up. So let's go to the 3-day, because the 3-day lately I've been looking at, and it's a really good area to, it's a really good what's the word I'm looking for, time frame to look at what levels exactly, where's price gonna probably pull back to and test before it continues up. So this is that weekly low right here, and as you can see, we have some 3-day candle opens right here. So I'm actually going to move this down here. Okay, so what I would like to see is this next 3-day cycle um, stay within this area right here and just not go below that. Not really stay within. Obviously, it could break above after we get the entry, but I want to see it come down towards these lows. And if I go into the daily, we can see that that lines up really well with this level that was respected right here. In fact, last week I actually gave out an analysis saying we're looking to buy gold in this area. I personally put a buy limit right at 1865, which is right where that, literally right under it. Okay, so the low of this candle was 1866.1, and yeah, my buy limit was at 1865, and then it exploded like 250 pips. But the good news is, I believe that it's actually going to pull back down to this area. I think we're going to be able to see this price come lower than here. So let's go to the 4-hour. In my opinion, this just did not come low enough. I mean, that's why I did put that buy limit right there at 65, is because I really did think we would come more into these wicks, and this right here, with it pushing up and this huge drop, to me that is a lot of sell pressure. I mean, that is a massive, massive 4-hour candle. That is 340 pips in 4 hours, and um, that's just, I feel like this is going to continue down slightly. This was not the bottom. It was a good entry point to get a solid 200 plus pip buy, but overall I don't think that's going to be the actual and the last entry point before this thing starts swinging to the upside. So I believe what we're going to see is a price pullback down. Let me mark. I think I accidentally moved. Okay, no, it is right on the spot. So I'm going to go to the 2-hour. And I really just want to see price pull back into this area again. I mean, lower than this low. So I'm gonna mark this low. So I want to see price pull below this. You know, I'm gonna just go like this, just for the visual sense. I want to see price pull right into this area, and that is specifically lower than this wick. That's why where the top of this area is, and not lower than the bottom of these wicks, right? So that is exactly why this area is right here. And as we can see, there's tons of liquidity in orders in the market here. Price exploded up from 1850 to 1878. It came down here, and this candle right here is essentially when it started this zone, and it spent a full 24 hours here before absolutely exploding. And that leads me to believe there is more orders in there that are going to be looking to be fulfilled, and it would just make sense if we go to the weekly time frame. It makes sense that we see this week come down and make a wick, right? A lot of the times when price is going to explode, you will see huge wicks come down, even like right here, right? So you see this low of this wick, and then you see the low of this one. I'm going to mark both of them. So if I go like this, okay, so we got this low right here, and we have this low right here. We can see it came in between them, right? It went lower than this one for sure, but it did not break this one. That's kind of what I'm looking at here. Um, so we could see lower than this one and not lower than that one. but from the size and the pressure of the past 2 weeks, that's why I don't think we're going to pull all the way back down to like 1850s. Obviously, it's possible, and I'm going to keep that in mind in case it does break through there. But I'm definitely looking to place the buys as long as we see that pressure from that area that we were looking at on the lower time frame. And if I throw on the VWAP from right here, which is when it first popped into the area, you can see that the lower VWAP, which indicates we buy under that VWAP, it has not been spiked out yet since, right here. And that just makes me strongly believe that we are going to see price pull back under this VWAP and hit really like 1960 or sorry 1863. That seems like a really good price point to be entering at. So I'm gonna have an alert down here. Um, so that's really what I'm going to be looking for going forward on gold, is being able to take a buy entry right around 1863 with a stop loss that would be under this key level right here, this daily level, right, which would be around 50, 60 pips. Lately on gold, when we've been swinging these huge trades, the stop loss is a little bit bigger because the target is huge. I mean, the target is going to be, upwards of, the first target is the first target is 700 pips. I mean, that's TP1, so if we're risking 70 pips and we're going 700, I mean, 70 pips, the stop loss probably won't even be that big, but still, it's still a 10 to 1, which is huge. And yeah, so that's why we've been using a little bit bigger stop losses on gold sometimes. Before we get that buy though, as you can see, I mean, if we just measure that, right? So 300 pips down, right? Price is at, well, price is right here right now. That's 200 pips down. If we look at the structure right here, we can see, look, we dumped right here, and we've been pulling back. This is very corrective. I'm going to get rid of this VWAP just for a minute here. So this structure is very corrective, and it leads me to believe that we're going to be able to sell gold from these highs, which we'll break down in just a minute. But I just want to paint the whole picture. I believe gold will pull up here, and we're going to be able to catch a sell down to this area that we're going to look to buy from, because again, that's going to be a solid 200 some pips. So it would make sense if we just took, we were a part of that opportunity. So where's a good spot to enter? I want to see price hit this upper area again. I don't expect it to really break this high, just based off of these huge wicks, right? So if we look right here, we can see how it has these huge wicks before it drops down. Obviously, it's a little bit different structure, but that's what I'm expecting, is price to pull up into this area. In my opinion, I think we might get really close, and who knows, it might actually spike slightly above it. Now that I'm looking at this 1 hour a little bit longer, it's very possible, but let's dive into the 30-minute time frame. See, it already retested this area, and it did not fill that imbalance right here. If you see this wick right here, there's imbalance. So yeah, you know what? It very well could spike just slightly above that high, and there is a lot of momentum pushing up here. So what I'm going to be looking for, regardless if it spikes above or not, is I'm going to be looking for a sell entry right in this area of low 1890s. So even if it spikes above, I would like to see it drop back in and show the rejection and show the wicks, which shows the sell pressure, and then we could take the entry right in this area here, with the target obviously being pretty much just the middle of this area, so like 1864, which would be a solid 280 pips, depending on where the entry was. Yeah, probably about 280 pips. And if we look at the VWAP from the flip side, obviously from when it sold, that is the wrong button. Right when it sold, if you take a look how perfect that lines up, we did get one spike already, so it would make sense based on, well, let's take a look at the daily time frame. See, but the daily time frame, it tells me it doesn't need to hit that high again, which is why I initially said it might not need to spike that. So I'm going to stay a little bit patient with this sell opportunity down here to see exactly where we can get the sell, because similar to what I was saying before with the buys, see how this wick right here, and we have the high, obviously it's not going to go that high, it's just going to retrace a little bit. We already spiked above this high right here, so it's possible we get another wick that's a little bit higher, but at the same time I could easily see this wick, coming pretty close, right around 1890, 1891, and then dropping, right, failing to break above that high. So let's go back to the 30-minute. Let's go all the way into the 10-minute time frame. The more that I look at it, I mean, we only have 1, 2, right? Normally it's 3, but this area right here, I mean, it dropped and it already pulled back to fill that, and then it dropped again. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on when price gets in the upper 1880s. And if it breaks above there, then obviously the entry would be right above this high. So I'm going to mark this high, but there's a really solid chance that price does not push that much above here. So I'm going to add an alert right in the middle of there. Yep, that's good. That's 1887. So the main thing here with gold is obviously the buys from 1860s all the way up to 1930. But on the side note, if price pulls back up into this area and rejects, then we're going to be looking for an entry and having the kind of the thought on the side of our mind that it has the small chance of spiking this out. But I'm betting more towards it's not going to spike this high out and it's just going to pull up in here, mainly based off of the daily time frame, just how that already looks, and based off how the wicks work. And from what I've seen, it doesn't need to come up above that. I wonder if there's a clear example where I could show where's a good one. This is a little bit different, but we can see we have a low here and then it pushed up. And as you can see, the next day, if you're looking to make a retracement, right, because let's say at this point in time you're looking to buy gold uh, down in this area. So obviously if price is up here, you're looking to buy it down here, that would present a sell opportunity because that is another 300 pips. So what you could do is look at this wick, and then you go in there and you look for where is the liquidity within this wick, and obviously it's not above it, right, because it didn't go that high. So it's within the wick, and that is pretty much what I'm expecting here. Example number 2 is right here. Obviously this is all a little bit different, but the concept I'm trying to point out is you see how it ended up, before it took off, it ended up spiking into wherever the liquidity was in this wick. It hit that level and then it dropped, and that's when the pinpoint entry was, and that's when you could continue up. So I think this is obviously where the liquidity is, and there's a second, I'm gonna call it, excuse me, I have the hiccups, a second area, but I really think it's possible that we just see it hit this area. And that's pretty much it for gold, right? Just looking to swing this to the upside, 1930s at first, and from there we'll reanalyze and get some more entries for the full target of all-time highs, and possibly get a sell before that. So now let's look at the pound yen, which is honestly kind of on a similar path. 2 weeks ago, it was really a week and a half ago, but 2 trading weeks ago on a Friday, the yen announced, it was either Friday or Thursday, but they announced that they're not changing any of their interest rates or anything like that, and they're keeping everything exactly the same. and that is going to cause the yen to do the same thing it's been doing. So let's look at the yen real quick, actually. Right, so last week we had some crazy manipulation, and pretty much every pair on the market was just whack. I mean, everything was moving weird. It was choppy. It was lots of random spikes from lots of different news. But overall, I mean, it just kept, yeah, everything was kind of random. But amidst all that chaos and madness, the yen did not have any more news, and there was nothing that came out that changed what they said Friday. So, in my opinion, last week was more of like a manipulation week, and this week is when we're going to see that news that they said how nothing's changing. I think we're going to see that actually come into fruition this week. So, my targets are just this low right here, 1827, and that is the all-time low since this chart started forming. So, obviously there's not really any other targets besides psychological ones, like very clean, like, if you look over here, 7,600, 7,400, right? All of those are psychological targets. But overall, I'm looking to see this thing continue down, continue weaker. Not necessarily like crazy movement like this, but even like this, you can see week after week after week, it just moves down and down and down and down. Even right here, which presents lots of good opportunities. If you look right here, check out this. So we made a low, and then we made a pin bar, and then the following week it touched that low right there. And this is kind of what we're at, right? We made a low, we made a huge pin bar, and I'm looking to see it at minimum touch this low right here. But like I said, the yen came out, and these guys said they're not changing anything. So I mean, fundamentally and logically, that wouldn't change anything that's been going on here. So, in my opinion, we're going to see this thing continue to drop. With that, we can look at the yen. Now, before we dive into the analysis, I just want to show you how high the yen has been before. We're right here. We've been on a pretty decent bull run, but look at how high it's been. It's been 250. That is literally 9,000 pips higher than it is right now, if my math is correct on that. And if you take a look here, right, massive bull run, slight pullback. Massive bull run again, a little bit bigger pullback. Huge bull run, a little bit sideways, push up, right, get the idea. And that's not really too far out from what's happening right now. And the main thing I'm getting at is, like, if you zoom in, this kind of looks like, dude, this thing is so overextended. It's been flying. Like, it's got to pull back at some point and have like a major pullback. But then if you look back at history, it really doesn't need to do that. We see this. This is right here. These two movements are kind of similar to what we're seeing right now, as far as like we had a huge push, and then I mean, this is 1,000 pips down, and then it pulled up a little bit, 700 pips, and then it dropped. Right, good trades, and then swing up 1,600 pips, and then same thing. Right, it dropped right here, then it went up. Right, then it went down. Not to that low. Right, both times. See this lower here in that one. Both times it dropped down, but it didn't go. It didn't make a new low. It respected that area. Even right here. Right, so now we go look at what price is doing right now, and it's pretty similar. So let's dive in that. Let me delete everything. This week, right here, huge wick, huge wick, 159 to 163.2. The following week, last week, it filled that wick pretty close, right? Got pretty close to completely filling that wick. I believe we have a solid chance of barely pushing down and then just exploding. And normally when I look at these charts, I'm like, the week that it's going to explode is going to have huge liquidity. But at the same time, look at these three bull runs and look at the candles that started them, like the actual start. This candle right here. Look at the size of that wick. Right here. This is the start. Because this is the final low. This is start. Because this candle, right? This did not go lower than this low. This candle's the start. There's like no wick on that. No wick on this candle. There's no wick on that candle. There's literally no wick on this candle. There is no wick at all. So let's dive in. From last week, I already marked this area. We'll just go to the 4-hour. I cleared the chart, so I'll redraw it. So from these highs right here to this low of that pin bar over, this is the area of liquidity that I wanted to see the pound yen hit. And we actually got a sell from 163.7 down to this area. I ended up closing it right here because we respected this level so strongly, and I tried buying right here. A few of us did, got stopped out of that, but overall, that sell was definitely there. Should have just held the sell, but you know the opportunity was there. It was showing the respect, so we had to give that opportunity a shot. With that behind, we look at price dumping into this area that I had highlighted, and I'm actually going to move it down to right in here. So see these bodies? So I'm just going to highlight that, okay? So because that's a little bit more accurate of where price actually went to. So now if we zoom in a little bit, we'll go to, let's see, we'll go to the third. Oh, no, I just changed the chart. We'll go to the 30-minute time frame. And what I see, spike down, first initial buy orders in place right here. We go, spike down again, second wave of buy orders, spike down again, third wave of buy orders. And now we're pretty much ready for liftoff. So the level I want to see hit is going to be right there. I want to see it come take this low out. And I don't think it's going to go much lower than this area right here. I don't want to draw another zone because that's just too much blue. So maybe I'll actually make this a level. We'll put this level right there. And then we'll highlight where we're looking to buy. Right? That looks better. So what I'm doing, this area is obviously that low that I marked the level at, down to these candles open and close right here. So I want to place an entry within this area because that's a 20 pip zone, and the stop loss, even if you enter at pretty much the top of that area, that's a 50 pip stop loss to have the stop under this daily low right here, which I don't believe it's going to break. So what I'm looking for possibly today or tonight is an entry on the pound yen. More specifically, let's go to the 5-minute. Yeah, that looks good. That looks really good right there. On 160.8 is really calling me, but that's the, like I said, that's the top of the zone. That's kind of a little bit bigger stop loss. The target is, I mean, these highs, I think we're going to be able to swing this thing to the moon. So the risk to reward is going to be there, even if the stop loss was like 70 pips, but still. I really think, yeah, 160.8 is just really feels right. But if we take a look and we mark this, it could go just a tad bit lower than that. Like 160.7374. So I'm really looking to enter under or on this black line. I'm going to put an alert right under it. I'm probably just going to set a buy limit once this live session is done, right at 160 point, probably 775, yeah. And I'll share that in our group when I do place that. And the targets, there's a few targets in mind. We'll go to the weekly time frame to look at the targets. So if this trend is going to continue, obviously there's going to be swing targets that are, okay, if we mark this high, obviously if it's going to break that high, where's the next resistance, which I talked about this in the last week. The next resistance is going to be this week's high, right? Let me zoom in. Right here, this candle's high, and then obviously you have these candles high, which is a 500 pip difference. So those are the swing targets, but I believe, that's obviously going to take a couple weeks, and there's a very good chance we're going to see, let me zoom in the smaller time frame to paint this out. There's a very good chance that we're going to see price push up and break this high and probably pull right into this little stubble right here. See how price kind of stubbled around for a little bit and then dropped, right? So lots of sell orders are placed right here. So it would make sense to me if price hits that 165. If price hits 165 and then we see some sort of major pullback from that area, so it would possibly be, an opportunity to sell that from that area. It all depends what the type of reaction we get from there. But then we can place another entry and we can slowly work our way up into, these highs. I'm going to place one at 175 right on the dot, and then this is going to be 170.5, right? So kind of similar target numbers. To me, that this just makes sense. I mean, take a look at this structure right here. We can see this low, and then it pulled up, and then it pulled back down into the area of where it took off from, but it didn't break that low. It came close, but it didn't break that low, and as you can see, it kind of stubbled around here for a minute. Right, you can see how it pulled in. It kind of stalled around, and then it took off. Right, and then it hit this high right here. See how it hit that high, and then it pulled back, and then it hit that high again, slightly pulled back, but overall, it continued upwards. And I mean, how long is this? This is 19 days. So there's a very, very good chance, we're going to see something like that happening at this area. So we'll push up, we'll pull back a little bit, maybe push up and fail to break it again, and that might get a lot of people selling, which would give it enough liquidity to break through it, because we know from a fundamental standpoint, as long as the yen doesn't switch anything they say, it's going to continue down, and that would ultimately bring pound yen up. And that goes along with really any other pound pair, or I'm sorry, any other yen pair. Let me go to the daily time frame. That was a nice trade. I don't know when. That was in March.
USD, JPY,
What's that?
US dollar, JPY, Japanese.
Oh yeah, US dollar JPY. Yeah, if the dollar continues to gain strength, then and the yen continues to weak, I mean this thing would completely explode. If we zoom out, This chart, oh wow, that goes all the way back to 2003. So it just broke. The pound yen or the dollar yen just broke a 20-year high. That's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. And if we look at that high, that's right there. I have all these levels marked. I don't trade US yen much because it's so tied to the dollar. Um, but there's a very good chance we're going to see this continue up. If we look at the daily time frame, I would expect the dollar yen to pull back more than the pound yen. I think they're at two completely different points. Um, unless we see something like this, though. See how we pushed up and we pulled back? And we got one candle that pushed, one candle that stalled, and the following candle, it just made a wick and then we exploded from there. You know, it's possible we see that again. So let's mark this daily low, which is this candle right there. And let's mark that high. And then let's go into the smaller time frame. And this area is all I'm paying attention to. Okay? So ignore all this over here. What's happening in this area? Where's the liquidity at? And it's really all right down here. Let me go to the 2-hour time frame. Yeah, look at that. Prices up here, it said I'm pulling down here to grab orders, pulling down here to grab orders. Where's the daily open? The daily open is right there. No, that doesn't make sense, does it? Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. Where's the, I want to mark the daily open. Okay, I'm going to mark this area right here. So the daily open to the low. It's really all right down in there. And if we extend that, look at that. It flipped as support. And if we look at this 4-hour, we see this level right here. I want to see it go lower than this wick low right here. So I want to see it come down just below that. So let's go to the 30-minute now and let's look. Now my eyes, I'm just going to highlight where I'm paying attention to. Lower than this level, but higher than right here. So this is the area that I'm analyzing what happened when price pulled into this area. So we're going to go all the way to the 10-minute to look at that. And as you can see, we have a lot of wicks here. Holy moly. Right, so we pulled in, we made one low, and then this structure here broke after it made that low, and then it snapped back in, and then it made a lower low, and then it came back in again. So we have so many touches. It would make sense if we just pull right into, let's see. Oh, I shouldn't have deleted that actually. What I'm looking at is this last push out. Okay, so here's the high of this candle. That imbalance was filled. That imbalance was filled. All the imbalances was filled. Massive inverted head and shoulders. I'll zoom out in just a minute. Um, I'm just thinking. I really want to say right in here, like right in this candle. The reason I highlighted exactly where this is highlighted at is this low of this candle right here to the bottom of this wick. So I pretty much, this candle right here, this big bullish candle, that's essentially what I just highlighted. Yeah, there's a solid chance that we see the pound yen, I'm sorry, the dollar yen pull down to 130.4 and then completely explode. And I just want to see now, where does that look like on the daily time frame? Because what I'm basically trying to predict is, where is this day's wick going to go? Like, how low is the wick going to be? And so let's look at the daily. Where does that put it? It puts it at the halfway point of this candle. Okay, that makes sense. So this is obviously structured a little bit differently. So I'm just thinking it's got to go lower than that. So I just moved it to the bottom of that. I really just, based off of the daily, that's why I feel like it's gonna go lower than the halfway point, which is this level. So I almost wanna say right in here. I don't almost want to say, that's what I'm saying, is right in here. This is only a this is what, 10 pips then? 10 pips. Stops are going to be under this day's low, right? Obviously, if it's going to break this day's low, then that analysis is wrong. All right, Sean, what you got? Wait, hold on. Let me look at this. Okay, I'll throw that up on there. Man, I always get hiccups when I'm doing this. So this is what Sean just sent. Well, all of you guys probably see that too. But um, shoulder, head, shoulder, neckline, bam, right? Explosive, but a huge one, and that just looks beautiful too. Because if we just take a look at, let me make it. Whoops. Let me go at this. Look at this. All right, we broke down, tested this, squeezed, right? Hit that low right there, popped off, and we're probably going to continue up a little bit, just a little bit at least. Another 20,000 pips. No, I'm just kidding. But there's really not a level to mark because it's making these all-time highs. So it's pretty much just going to be reading the structure and letting it form the high and letting it test the high. I mean, look how crazy. How many pips is this? This thing just took off. It's crazy. How many pips is this? This just went 1,600 pips. And we're expecting it to at least go, I mean, it would have to go a little bit more. Let's see how many pips is this. This is 2,600, all right? So just with that, just with these two measurements, this is 1,600 push, this is 2,600 push. That just proves it's possible to see this thing continue up, and it does not have to have a major pullback, so that's good to know. Let's look at this one. 1,900, right? Let's look at this one. That's the same size. That's pretty much it. And that would put this week's wick. It's stalling out.
Is the recording finished?
No, not yet. Almost done. We're taking a look at the or pound dollar yen. I always I keep calling it the pound yen. It's the dollar yen. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I'm gonna add this to my radar now. I want to see it dip down into this area right here, and then I'm gonna delete this line. We don't need that anymore. We know what's going on. This is the daily low. Because if you think about it, I mean, this really does look like a sell-off though. And it could be looking like that in order to have a crazy push up. Where is the stumble last time? I think that stumble was right here. Yeah, it has to be. Look at this. Look at this, dude. So if we dove in like we just did, Where's the daily candle start? The daily candle starts right here. How perfect is that? We're probably going to be buying these yen pairs like in the next 5 hours. Look at this. Looks like a sell-off, dude. I mean, it's in this. It hit this area, hit this resistance, liquidity, tapped it, right? Tapped it again. Looks like it was going to sell off, and it didn't even break this little low right here. And this one right here is even lower than that. It just pulled back into where the liquidity was in this tight area, and then just completely exploded. So yeah, man, it's really possible. It's very, very possible we're gonna see this thing explode. I'm gonna. That's it. That's where it's going right there. Right there. Those wicks kind of throw it off because if you look at, oh crap, wait, where was it? It was down here. What I'm really highlighting is from this wick to the bottom because that's all empty space of orders that haven't been fulfilled. And that's essentially what I want to do here, but they have been fulfilled. Uh, but because it's a new week, there has to be a wick, and it's probably going to come back down to that same area. I mean, why would it not? That's the question. Why would it not come back down to that area? So that's why I was trying to zoom in and make it a little bit cleaner. But all those wicks, I mean, it really fulfilled all of that already. So hopefully we can see it. I mean, there's no way it's not going to just drop 20 pips. There's no way it won't do that. But yeah, I'm probably going to be placing buy limits on this very soon. And I'm just going to very briefly touch the pound Aussie and crypto because those are the pound Aussie. I'm not really expecting it. I'm more focused on the yen pairs right now and gold. And that's kind of the reason why with Bitcoin too. I really want to focus on these yen pairs and get that entry correct. But the pound Aussie, the weekly closed with a massive wick, and it's in an area right now where it really could go both ways, which is why I'm not really looking to trade it that much right now. It's showing a lot of rejection here, which leads me to believe it could push upwards, but at the same time, what I've had analyzed was priced to pull up into this area and then for it to continue downwards. That has been my analysis for a little bit of time. Like since down here actually when we placed some buys. Oh, actually it was right here at this candle. We placed buys. I wanted it to see hit this, pull back a little bit, and then dump. So I'm gonna keep that sell mind and go about this chart looking at a sell. And what I'm seeing is just a little wick on the daily time frame. This isn't an actual zone I'm looking to highlight, but I want to say point out the imbalance between here and this daily high. There's lots of orders that need to be fulfilled. And looking at the weekly, if this is going to drop, I don't think it's going to have that big of a wick. I really think, let's go to the 3-day. Yeah, okay, that's absolutely gorgeous. That's gorgeous. So I really only need to highlight these two. Now let's go to the weekly. That is beautiful. So, um, you know what? Maybe I will pay a little bit more attention to this during the week because that just looks beautiful now. I love the 3-day. We'll go to the 2-hour. How does that look? Oh, it also looks beautiful. I really just need to highlight that right there. I think there's a really good chance we're going to see this thing pull back. Um, the the basic, where's the button I'm looking for? The basic thing would be, oh, it's going to retest here, then drop. But the manipulation and the liquidity It's going to push up a little bit higher than what other shorters are thinking, right? Because that would make sense to see a little wick above here and then sell it. That just makes sense, right? But what makes better sense is seeing it go higher than that and stop all those people out and then drop. So I think right up in that 1.76 or just under that 1.759, I'm probably going to place a sell limit right up in there. And the target is this weekly low that I marked, 1.71, which would be 500 pips. And there's a bigger target, which would be 1.66 or 1.67. That would be 800 pips. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I didn't want to dive really too much into that one. It's pretty much as simple as it's gonna get. I'm looking to sell this right here. And briefly, let's just look at what crypto did. I don't think there's any move right now that's going to be traded, and I am not looking to enter right now because this massive move just happened, and that's the move that happened, and now we gotta wait for the next huge thing. Obviously, it's going to continue down. I think we're going to get a pullback into this area right here before we see it continue down. Very similar to right here, as you can see, it absolutely drained, and then it was a very slow pullback. You see how from the moment it drained this low to the moment it started dumping, that's 10 days, which is why I'm not rushing. Um, the new target will be 28,000 from this point in time. When it hits this, it's going to 28,000. There's no way it's not going to. Um, so I'm pretty much just kind of waiting to see what Bitcoin does. It's possible we get a buy up to that area. That's 400 pips before we catch the sell. If we go to the 3-day, actually, it's just such a beautiful structure here. It's glorious. It's absolutely glorious. We've taken multiple sells. Pretty much at every top of wick that you see, a sell entry was placed. It's just beautiful, beautiful structure. And yeah, I think we're going to be able to see a pullback into high 37s. I mean, it's dropped from essentially 50K to 30K without really pulling back. And that's why I think we might stall for a little bit. We might spike down to this low right here. That would make sense to me. But it also makes sense that we just went right in between it too. That makes perfect sense. So right now I'm just waiting. I'm honestly probably not going to look for anything until this 3-day candle closes, which is in tomorrow night. So no, not tomorrow night. Yes, tomorrow night. Sorry. 24 hours, 27 hours, yes. So tomorrow night we'll come back to Bitcoin, and from there, depending on how this candle closed and depending on the lower time frame structure, it's very, very possible that we get a buy entry. Probably would be lower than this low, right? Somewhere in here. It might not hit this. It really might. It doesn't have to, but there's a very good chance that that next 3-day candle is going to come lower than this. It really all depends on how the next 27 hours goes. Because if this 3-day candle right here that's forming closes where it opened and we have a massive wick, then the entire story changes. Because, you know, then it could come up a little bit higher and we probably wouldn't be buying, right? So that changes a couple things, which is why I'm just waiting. Just waiting to see what happens. And yeah, Ethereum is the same thing. It hit the target of, it hit it exactly. That was the target we've been selling since the top, really. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Well, that's everything. I unloaded the clip there. Just a quick recap. One sec, I just messed up my mouse. Wait, how is it? Okay, I was gonna say, why did that look like that? Quick recap, gold, looking to buy at 1863. Obviously, there's going to be a sell opportunity down to 1863, so we might be taking that sell opportunity. Dollar yen and the pound yen, we're looking to buy relatively soon, possibly tonight, just a little bit under the daily open. And the pound Aussie also looking to sell, or not also, we're looking to sell it right around 1.76. So we'll see what happens.